We're going to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance in a minute, but when we stand, I want to stay standing. And Pastor Joan Scheffler is going to do the invocation as we stay standing after the pledge. So let's stay standing. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we praise you and we thank you for the blessings you give us each and every day. Thank you for bringing each of these persons here tonight together to serve and giving them the spirit to serve your community, their community, and guide them as they conduct the business of this county, Father, and lead them in your wisdom. And if there be any disagreements, help them to remain respectful and considerate to one another. May each of us seek your will and pursue your glory through all that we say and do. Help us to remember what the psalmist wrote, "Great is the Lord and abundant in power. His understanding is beyond measure." And we pray all of these things in the power of Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Nancy, will you do roll call, please?
Sure. Acree,
Here.
Allen, Bivens,
Here.
Book, Friel,
Here.
Gascoigne,
Here.
Hudson,
Present.
Kitson,
Present.
Copine,
Present.
Minimi,
Present.
Naylor,
Present.
Pearson,
Present.
Robertson,
Present.
Sheline,
Here.
Shippert,
Here.
Scrogstad,
Here.
White,
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
Zeman,
Here.
Olson.
Here. Thank you. Under announcements, I've got please mute or turn your cell phones off during the meeting. And under B, I've got the Lee County Drug Court has a graduation at 4 p.m. Wednesday, March 8th at the new courts building. And I'll be going over, so be glad to have a show of board members. I think it would show support. So we'll meet over here probably 20 minutes before that, and we'll walk over together if you want to do that. We'll move down to minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look over the minutes of the January 19th meeting? Is there any corrections or changes? If none, we're going to let them stand as read. We'll move on to monthly resolutions. We have none. No Joseph Meyer resolutions. Zoning and planning, the monthly reports in your packet. We'll move down to petitions going to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have none. Petitions going to the Planning Commission. We have none. Petitions coming from the Zoning Board of Appeals. There are 3. Petition 22-P-1600, special use for community solar project, Bradford Township. Is there a motion to approve this resolution for the petition stated? Mr. Friel moves, Mr. Wilson seconds it. Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Lyrum? Mr. Bivens? Motion carried. Petition 22-P-1601, special use for community solar project in Bradford Township. Is there a motion to approve this resolution? Mr. Scrogstad moves, Mr. Kitson seconds it. Any discussion? Any discussion? None. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
I think we got 4 that time. We got Mr. Hudson opposed also. Motion carried. So we'll go to petition 22-P-1603, special use for outdoor storage for campers, boats, trailers, and recreation vehicles in Lee Center Township. Is there a motion to approve this? I'll ask again for a motion to approve this. Mr. Sheeline moves. Do I have a second? Mr. Robinson seconds it. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Scrogstad.
My understanding is the Board of Appeals made a recommendation not to pass this. Is that correct, Alice? Just wanted to point that out.
What was the vote?
The zoning board of appeals voted unanimously on a recommendation to deny this petition.
Any more questions for Alice? Yes, Mr. Friel.
So if we vote yes, then we're not following the recommendation of the panel, is that correct?
That would be my understanding.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
Roll call vote, please.
Absolutely. We'll go roll call.
Copine,
No.
Minimi,
No.
Naylor,
No.
Pearson,
No.
Robertson,
No.
Sheeline,
No.
Shippert,
No.
Scrogstad,
No.
White. No. Wilson,
No.
Zeman,
No.
Acree,
No.
Bivens,
No.
Friel,
No.
Gascoigne,
Yes.
Hudson,
No.
Kitson,
No.
and Olson.
No. It was, you're right. Hey, Charlie. I need to correct that for the record. I apologize. It was Gascoigne and Mr. Gascoigne who seconded it, and I called out Mr. Robertson. Sorry, Chris. We changed the minutes to reflect that.
Yes.
Petition denied, so. We're good to B then. We'll keep on moving down. I got petitions coming from the planning commission, none. And we'll move down to administrative monthly update and board members' comments. Wendy, do you have anything you want to share with us? And then we'll go to board members.
I have nothing other than what's already on the agenda. Thank you.
Do I have any board members want to? All right, we'll keep moving. Public comments, I have none. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak tonight? Okay. We'll go down to the county organization presentations and updates. We got Carla Belzer from U of I at Stinson. She's going to give us an update.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just reintroduce myself since it's been a few months since I've been here. My name is Carla Belzer. I am the county director for the University of Illinois Extension, serving Carroll, Lee, and Whiteside counties. And we did provide you with lots of flyers about events that we have going on upcoming in Lee County. I'm going to try to follow them in order. So if you're following along, you can know what I'm talking about. I was really excited to see the first flyer that's listed, share some information about our community and economic development opportunities for local government education. This is a really amazing opportunity that we provide for local governments, city boards, county boards, really anyone who's interested in local government. This webpage provides many different resources for government officials, including recorded webinars, live webinars on a variety of topics that are relevant to the business of local governing bodies. So I'd really encourage you to check that out and to sign up. to get on the mailing list for the local government education webinars. Just a few of the ones that are listed as recorded that have been offered recently include Attracting Rural Residents, Part 1 and 2. That's pretty important these days, how we can maintain our population base with changing technology and things like that. So some really relevant discussions. Those webinars happened in January, but those recordings are available. There also have been recordings on the Illinois Office broadband updates and federal legislative updates as well. So I just think these are great resources, again, for local officials such as yourself to stay in tune with what's going on, not only locally, but across the state, and have the opportunity to gain additional education. They are completely free as well. So many of them are offered over the lunch hour. And again, those recordings can be viewed at any day or time at your discretion. I will at some point have our local community economic development educator, Michael Delaney, come to speak to the board just so you can meet him. He actually has been present in our county with the announcement just last week with Tom Demmer and the work that he's going to be doing in the county. He's already made connections with Tom. So we see that there's some really good potential for collaboration in the future. So moving on in the packet, I provided you with lots of flyers regarding our work with youth in Lee County. So I'm going to try to go in order. We are offering a family fun day at Franklin Creek that's open to the public in an effort to get adults and kids excited about the natural environment. We have so many great opportunities here in Lee County. That is a completely free day out at Franklin Creek in conjunction with Earth Day. So our hope is to get families out there not only excited about, natural activities, but also joining 4-H and learning about the opportunities that we have for youth there. I also included our Lee County club listing. I'm very proud to say in Lee County, we have 13 total 4-H clubs. That is, out of our 3-county unit, that is by far the largest number of clubs. We have great retention of youth in those programs. So you have that information if you want to know where our clubs are and when they meet. The next flyer is just some random programs that we're offering. We do have a horse clinic coming up for our 4-Hers. There is also a flyer regarding our Junior Gardener program, which is at Emmanuel Lutheran Church. This program, my own kids have actually been in this program for, one of them aged out. He's been going for so many years. It's such a great opportunity to get kids out in the garden. I credit this program with teaching my youngest son to like cucumbers. He is probably the pickiest eater you'll ever meet, and he eats more produce out of anyone I know because of this club. So the kids go out and they grow, but they also get the opportunity to try produce. And the cool thing about this program is that it also kind of developed into a Kids in the Kitchen program, which is meeting right now once a month. So the youth spend the summer out in the garden learning about produce, and in the winter or off growing season, they come into the kitchen and learn what to actually do with that produce. So just this month, they met actually on Valentine's Day, and they made an eggplant lasagna. I don't know. I've never made an eggplant lasagna my entire life. And these kids, with adult supervision are learning how to use this produce, which in the long run will help them eat healthy and hopefully, reduce, physical conditions throughout their lifespan. So it's a really great program. We have some great volunteers in charge of that program as well. Speaking of a great program, our Kids and Canines program is back as well in conjunction with the Granny Rose Enrichment Center out there. So kids learn dog obedience. They get the opportunity to develop skills in showmanship. We, again, were awarded not only the multi-county 4-H dog show, so that's a Northwest Illinois dog show that will be held out at Granny Rose, but also the state of Illinois 4-H dog show. So that means visitors are coming into our great area to, eat at our restaurants and see all of the opportunities that we have to offer. So we're really proud to hold that now for the 4th year in the row. A couple other things we have going on, some project pool activities as well. Our federation is active. Those are the older youth in our programs that really learn about leadership skills, and they develop events for the clubs as a whole. And then we also have a public speaking contest that is coming up that teaches youth how to do what I'm doing right now, how to present in front of others. So lots of things going on in our 4-H program. Moving on, we do have our Ready, Set, Grow annual gardening event coming up. Oh, I'm sorry, this is actually the last one. So you're good. You're doing good. I'll move on to the local food flyer. This is a really interesting opportunity and partnership that is developed out of the Illinois Department of Ag and the Illinois Department of Human Services. They're looking at ways to have underserved producers, so underserved farmers, to develop a pathway for them to get their products into the hands of local consumers. So these listening sessions, there is some grant money to help local producers do just that. So these listening sessions are the first step in learning about that project. The nearest one, physical locations, they have in Elgin and Galesburg, but there will be a virtual opportunity for producers to participate in that. So that is pretty exciting. And then the last flyer that I have for you is we do have our annual gardening conference that's coming up right here in Dixon at the Loveland Community Center. We get about 80 people there every single year. Gardening became huge in the pandemic. We're not seeing any drop off of that, which is great because people are learning how to, grow their own food, harvest it, use it, and, produce is a better choice than, say some fast food or things like that. So a couple other updates I wanted to give since I only come about once a quarter. We are actively participating in the Connected Communities implementation grant around the social determinants of health. That's a project that's being sponsored out of the Ogle County Health Department, but it's a project for Lee, Whiteside, and Ogle counties. So we're very excited about expanding our programming efforts in Lee County through that grant. They're they're focusing on 4 different pillars of the social determinants of health. 2 of them off the top of my head is the built environment and food access, which we have lots of experience in food access and food insecurity. We are also offering a paid internship to college students this summer. I didn't have the flyer to provide to you tonight, but that information will be available after March 1st on our website. We still do have some open positions, but we are moving towards hiring another youth development educator because our youth programming in our unit is just busting at the seams. We have so many opportunities. And then the position that I vacated to become the county director will be opening up here in the next couple of weeks. So I know that was a lot to throw at you, but when I try to condense everything we do, in a quarter or more, it's a lot to tell you about. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions that anyone has or comments.
Mr. Bivens.
You mentioned you have 13 4-H clubs. Is that number increased, decreased, consistent over the years?
It's very consistent over the years. We have approximately 230 youth that are enrolled in those clubs. I will say Lee County did not see a hit through the pandemic. Some of our other clubs have, in other counties, have reduced because either adult volunteers were no longer able or interested in maintaining a club, or the youth had some natural attrition. So we're very proud that Lee County has a very strong and rich tradition of 4-H that even the pandemic couldn't take out, right?
Any more questions or comments? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we'll move down to reports of committee, county services, Mr. Scrugstead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. County Services met February 14th, Valentine's Day. We didn't pass out any Valentine's card to each other, so we didn't do that. So, but the minutes are in your onboard platform. It was a big meeting. We had a lot going on, so please take the time to read what happened so you can be educated on what all happened during that meeting. There's a couple things that I wanted to point out. In the county clerk's office, Nancy let us know that one of her chief deputy, Kathy Grossman, is retiring after 27 years, March 10th. So we're going to be losing an employee, a veteran employee that has been helping her out with the election department for most of her time there. And so what she's going to do is she's going to restructure the election department and kind of move some people around. She's not going to fill a person for that position until after the consolidated election. So she's going to move some people around, and I just think that's kind of awesome that you've got employees that can move around and work other positions. I know when we worked at the sheriff's department, when we were shorthanded, the jail would run dispatch, or the road deputies would come in and work in the jail whenever there's a shortage. So I think that's important, and I'm thankful to our employees that are willing to pick up the slack where they're needed to help move Lee County, the different services that we provide for the public. So again, I want to thank Nancy or I want to just acknowledge that Kathy will be retiring in March for 27 years. She will be missed. And everything else is in your minutes. Thanks.
Any questions or comments for Jack? Thanks, Jack. We'll move to Blackhawk Hills Regional Council and Mrs. Shippard.
Yes, there's the executive directors, I'm sorry, I apologize. The meeting minutes are in the packet.
All right. Any
Thank
questions? Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.
Claims, Mr. Zeman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I got 2 meetings to report on. The one was January, the minutes are in your packet. January 18th, usual time, usual place. We reviewed 57 claims, no rejections. And that's all for that meeting. And then February 8th, we reviewed 90 claims. We rejected 1 because of a missing invoice, but everything else went pretty smooth. And that's my report.
Any questions for Mike? Thanks, Mike. We'll go to Facilities, I guess, Executive Committee, and I wasn't there, so Tom chaired the committee. Mr. Kitson, the minutes are in your packet. Mr. Kitson, do you got anything you want to share?
No, not unless there's questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you. We'll move to Facilities and Maintenance Committee. The Honorable Mr. Wilson, you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met February 14th, 3 p.m. We discussed a few things with our maintenance supervisor, Greg and Saunders, and we're moving forward with some of the improvements to the downstairs. We've got some plaster repair that's going to be done in the next few weeks. We were going over some of the long-term strategic stuff that the properties had put together. The rest of the information is in the onboard. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Questions or comments? Thanks, Tom. We'll go to Health Department. Mrs. White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did not have a meeting this month, but I do have some updates for you guys. Dr. Voa from the Director of Illinois Department of Public Health will be visiting KSB on March 17th, which is really cool. We have free COVID at-home tests that are available while supplies last. So if you do want them, please call the Health Department, extension 2106. And now the Health Department is also offering school and sports physicals this year. So if your children need them or any children need them, please call. And the next Board of Health meeting will be on March 14th, and all are welcome to join. Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Katie, quick question. With the health physical screenings, are there any criteria for the children that can participate in that?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, Katie. We're going to back up and do Mr. Sheila in the finance.
I thought you were going to let me go by.
I was going to save you for the end, but.
Yeah. You know, people throw things at the guys at the end, so I appreciate you not doing that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee met last Thursday. Usual time, usual suspects in place. And the minutes are in your packet. And just some highlights. Do want to mention in regards to the treasurer's report, we're still having strong results in income. You've heard me talk about, the last several months about
about how we're anticipating a drop in income, simply because of the economics. We've not understood why the income are well understood, why the income has been so strong in regards to some of the state money that we're getting and also the sales tax. Paul our treasurer did report that where we are possibly seeing a little bit of weakening in the income in the early preliminary February report, and that'll be confirmed when we reconvene next month. Nothing really, he's not concerned, I'm not concerned. There's, those income numbers, bop around if you look at the numbers that are in your packet. But it's just something that we're going to be really keeping a handle on because, we're especially with what Mr. Wilson has got and his committee has got into place, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, that it's really important that we see income continue to be strong for the county. Moving on down, the one thing I want to mention before I get to G or the facilities prioritization is I would like to talk about the LCIDA contribution. My understanding is there's a little bit of confusion in regards to what this actual ask is. So we've been as county in the past, I think we've our contribution has kind of bopped around over the years, anywhere from, I think, the high of $25,000, then it got reduced down to 20, and then it got reduced down to 15. And that was strictly a functionality of the perception of what money was available for the county over time. Now we set aside with the ARPA dollars and the ARPA committee and the prioritization of the ARPA dollars, we did set aside money strictly for economic development. And so there's really some exciting things that are happening with LCIDA that's going to benefit, really lay some seeds that will hopefully come to fruition over time. And the economic development is very much a function of time. It takes a long time to develop things, as long-term residents of the county. You guys have seen how long it's taken the industrial park south of Dixon to develop. It's taken a long time. Gredco over in the eastern side of the county has been working on that. That project, the projects that's happening over there, and some real exciting stuff. Some of that groundwork was laid 30 years ago. Economic development is really a long-term piece. But I can tell you as a board member, our contribution of $15,000 is I've viewed as kind of an embarrassment. We have a responsibility to our citizens and to our community to be progressive and forward-looking and understand that economic development and the seeds that lays is really important for our citizens and the health of our county. So we've had an opportunity here in utilizing ARPA dollars. And so the contribution that is before you tonight is taking our old contribution of $15,000 and adding another 35 to it. So the total contribution that we will be providing to LCIDA is $50,000. Now, what do we get? The return on investment. Now, where I just said economic development is a long-term plan, and it is. But in this particular case, we're getting some immediate benefit because it's really some exciting things that's happening in LCIDA right now. They're moving from a part-time position with their executive director of Kevin Marks into a full-time position that Tom Demmer is taking the reins of LCIDA. And Tom already in the short period of time he's been on board is already doing some amazing things using the contacts that he made in Springfield and bringing that knowledge, wealth of knowledge of the General Assembly and how economic development works on the state level and bringing that expertise to the county. And that's already starting to show paid dividends. So I'm really excited about what's going on with LCIDA and the long-term positive growth that that's going to entail and look for us. So I really ask for all of your support for that increase in contribution. So there, I'll get off my soapbox, but I've watched. I was on LCIDA 20 years ago when I was township supervisor, and if it wasn't for LCIDA, you wouldn't see that growth in the the south of town. I mean, those jobs that are there that we have, hundreds of families that depend on, was a direct result of the efforts of folks 25 years ago. So it's really an exciting thing. We'll drop down to G and talk about facilities prioritization and future capital. I really want you guys to pay attention to that spreadsheet that's involved in that. This is very much a living document, but we are starting to lay out the timelines and expenditures of what the capital projects that we're potentially embarking on. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. And I felt you in the back of my neck. But anyway, this is, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is going to be a heavy lift, and it's going to be, we're going to have to take this with a lot of thought and cooperation amongst department heads and Mr. Anderson's assistants and the expertise that Mr. Wilson and his folks bring to the table. The one thing that I can say, a lot of this is the result of us not being able to invest in our facilities over a long period of time, simply because of budget constraints. But when you don't invest in your facilities, sooner or later that bill comes due, and it comes due in a hard way. So I really want to applaud Chairman Wilson and what he's done and the expertise he brings to the table, and being able to prioritize the projects and make sense of things, and being able to give us a clear plan. And I hope I'm not laying this on too thick for you, but I really feel this way. Because all the things that we've been able to do as far as the tuck pointing of the buildings, we've got challenges across the street and down at Amboy. And if it wasn't for Tom and his folks, you need that expertise to understand how do you move forward. And Tom's been working on that, and I really appreciate that. But like I said, we're going to be talking about this and bringing this in a matter, hopefully that's coherent and that everybody can understand. Really encourage any questions as far as what you have in front of you at the same time, and myself and the chairman and Mr. Wilson will answer questions. And if we can't answer them, we'll get the answers for you as best we can. So anyway, Mr. Chairman, I think I've talked enough, and if there's any questions, be happy to take them.
Any questions for Mr. Sheeling?
I had a question.
Yeah, Angie.
Yeah. So it sounds like with the $15,000 or to $25,000 we've been contributing, we've really made progress with our development. What do you see that we'll be getting for that extra amount of money, since we've already been somewhat successful?
Sure, and the simple answer is Tom Denner. So in the past, now, and it's moved back and forth. Back when it was DIDA, you had Tim, oh gosh, what was his last name? Anyway, they had an executive director that was full-time, but then over time, and they had LC when it merged or evolved from Dixon Industrial Development Association into Lee County Industrial Development Association. They They were purchasing the property south of town and putting that economic development plan together that was going on that, but they were doing it in a part-time way with a part-time executive director. John Thompson and Kevin Marks, is part-time. And now with the addition of Tom Demmer, who's going to be full-time, Tom brings he's going to be doing nothing else. And again, with the contacts that Tom has and the experience he has in Springfield is going to be very, very helpful. Because a lot of this stuff, Angie, is it's not only just, you just don't, these guys don't sit by the phone and wait for businesses to call them and say, hey, do you got 5 acres? Do you got 10 acres? There's a huge amount of planning that goes that, and I think you're learning that in Black Hills RC&A. There's the planning that goes into place to set in the infrastructure. We wouldn't have a rail vac, we wouldn't have an Aflatac, we wouldn't have Rainer Garage Door now if it wasn't for the infrastructure that was put into place. Well, that cost a lot of dollars, and there was a tremendous amount of planning to get that infrastructure into place. And a full-time economic development director brings that to the table.
So, it sounds like Kevin also brought that to the table as part-time. So what are the, I guess, additional things that Tom can do above and beyond that he's talking about bringing to the table?
So you can imagine that the different things, the contacts that Tom has in DCEO, which is the economic development arm for the state of Illinois. Tom's going to be looking for grants. He's going to be looking and using those contacts to further develop infrastructure and in the expansion areas, and also do fundraising because it takes dollars to get that stuff done. And none of this happens overnight, and it always. I could give you chapter and verse. For example, Gredco, the work that Kevin Wise did, and then Jason Anderson has followed up on. So you have those two examples are two guys that were completely full time through their tenure, and I won't want to bore you with you can talk to Jason sometime and he can give you the whole history of Gredco and how the municipal railroad of Rochelle and how that developed into the industrial park and all the planning and huge millions and millions of dollars of investment that got put into place through grants, through private donations, through business donations, through selling of property and options. It's a very complicated process to put these things together and get the infrastructure all in place. And so going from a part-time director to a full-time director is going to be beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to add to that, the full-time is where it's at. I mean, he's going to work with ComEd and iGas. He's going to go knock on some doors, help current businesses and help for donations too. We didn't have that in the past because Kevin was part-time. So I think full-time, we've got a 3-year commitment and then we'll reassess it at that stage if it's, still we want to move forward with it. Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll go to 911 board, Mr. Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In addition to the report that's already been submitted by Director Dallas, the ETSB annual filing requirement for the Illinois State Police has been met. The transfer of the 911 funds to the 988 did not occur. It was repealed by our Senate Bill 1720, which obviously is a good thing to happen. And the NG 911 project had been put on hold due to the issue with CallWorks and their equipment circuit issues not yet installed by Brightspeed, which was formerly known as CenturyLink. And then I was advised that the sewer line at the ECC/911 building had to be repaired due to repeated and continued issues. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer those.
Any questions or comments? Thanks, Keen.
Thank you, sir.
We'll move to Public Safety Court Services Committee. Mr. Copine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Safety met February 14th, meeting called to order at 10:32 a.m. Everybody that's on the committee attended in person. We had no comments from public attendees. The previous minutes were approved without modification. As far as department head reports, we had nothing from animal control. Circuit Clerk's office, Amy, said that Office of the Illinois Courts Office continued the court technology grant again in 2023. An application was submitted and the county was awarded $229,752.44. Offices that will benefit from the grant include the judges, state's attorney, public defender, and court security. Nothing from the judges, the coroner, and the public defender. Emergency Management Agency, Kevin Lally reported that EMA was recently deployed to the Karis chemical plant in LaSalle to assist with the fire. His services were there for about 3 days. That was a massive chemical situation down there, from what I understand. Probation, Stacy reported that probation is working with Sarah Leisner from the state's attorney's office on a federal drug court grant. The information will be submitted around April 1st, 2023. The sheriff was here, spoke, and for transparency reasons, there was a discussion on the purchase of. Sheriff, if you want to explain all of that, you can go through that quicker than I can sit here and read it. Basically, it's a purchase of some equipment. The expenses are already basically spoken and explained where they're going to come from, which is in the entire report. Also, there was a topic of the correctional officer, or using a person, I should say, that had permanent injuries that were received and restricted hours of work. The request was to make that person what do I want to say, Sheriff?
Control room correctional deputy.
There we go. Out of the committee, the motion was made to accept that request, and the vote was taken, and it was unanimously passed by voice vote. Sheriff, I'm going to let you explain the accommodations that the men received.
Oh, sure. So actually, this last Monday was the Illinois Sheriff's Association Winter Conference. So we had submitted 4 of our deputies that had been involved in an incident down in Harmon, late December 2021, which a 3-year-old was missing in the middle of the night. Temperature was very cold, I believe 17 degrees Fahrenheit. And the child was only clad in a diaper at that time. So approximately, we mobilized some extra personnel, brought in Kevin Lally with the drone to assist in the search of the area. Ultimately, the child was found approximately an hour and a half later, face down in a ditch, unresponsive. The deputies swooped him up, wrapped him in a coat, wrapped him in blankets, made the determination due to it being in Harmon. There's not really a close ambulance to the area. They made the determination to immediately transport the child to KSP Hospital. 1 deputy led the others in the squad. While he was being transported, the child coded a couple times, had to be revived through CPR. Dixon Police at the city limits provided traffic control so we could expedite the response to KSP. Ultimately, the child survived, did code, I believe, 4 times in the emergency room. And according to the emergency medical personnel, had they not done what they did, that child would not be here today. So they were awarded the Illinois Sheriff's Association Deputies of the Year for 2022.
Thank you, Sheriff. Anybody have any quick questions?
Clegg, Sheriff, I'm sorry. Could you
That's my
say that, could you say that, recognize the officers' names for us?
Yes,
Who were involved?
so Derek Rankin was the sergeant in charge that evening. He's now my chief deputy. There was Deputy Colton Morgan, who has since moved on to the Dixon Police Department. Deputy Nathan Hollinger and Deputy Joe Presley was the fourth. Sorry, I wasn't aware I was going to have to speak on this, so I didn't have my material. So, but yeah, no, all four of them were honored with that distinction. So, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sheriff. Continuing on, State's Attorney has a report of some software that needs to be purchased for an update. And there's a couple of other items there. The details are in the packet here, rather than me reading through all of it. Report abandoned property focus group, Mr. Hudson and Administrator Wendy Ryerson made a brief report and also an explanation of the expense of funds out of the $100,000 from ARPA. So far, the remaining funds, I believe, are $63,312.99. And the action continues on there as far as abandoned buildings. Unfinished business, we had none. New business, there was nothing to bring up. And there was no request for an executive session, and public safety adjourned at 10:57 a.m. If I can answer any questions, I'll be glad to try.
Any questions for Mike? Yes.
Mike, I got a question. Under the Emergency Management Agency, did they request our assistance or how did we get involved?
The authorities from LaSalle County called Kevin apparently and requested.
Okay.
Kevin did check in with me as he was en route down there, and then I think the sheriff was notified too in case
Okay.
if something were to happen while Kevin was down there.
Sure.
The sheriff could stand in until Kevin could come back, and he did assure me that if there was anything major that came up here, he would relinquish control to those authorities and return to the county.
Sure, just curious.
Sure.
Kevin does an awesome job. He lets Mike know, the sheriff, and he lets me know also, so we all know what's going on. So, any more questions, comments? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll go to Tri-County Opportunities Council, Ms. Shippard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The minutes are in the packet.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, Angie. We'll go to Tourism, Mr. Gascoigne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I attended the Lee County Tourism meeting on the 8th, and they decided to place ads in several local publications as they normally do, as well as Northwest Illinois Visitors Guide. And just to bring more attention to Lee County and many of its events and businesses. They also hired an independent contractor to help broaden the tourism board's reach on social media such as Facebook and Pinterest. And the tourism working group met with Diane Nicholson, who is the executive director of tourism, on the 10th, and we discussed all options of promoting Lee County while working within the budget, which, as you see, the packet may change. There was another working group meeting on the 21st with Diane Bausman of Blackhawk Waterways. I didn't make that particular meeting. And there will be another one coming up soon with Jeremy England of Discover Dixon. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Ron? Thanks, Ron. UCCI, Mr. Kitson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The minutes are in your packet from the last meeting. There were 4 of us attended for some training. Ms. Shippert, Mr. Gascoigne, Mr. Hudson, and myself. It was a very good training experience down there that day, and we came home with a lot of knowledge and questions, I guess, for the future. But all the minutes are in the packet, unless there's questions I can answer.
Any questions or comments? Thanks, Tom. We'll move down to unfinished business. The ordinance, the fund balance policy was held over from January. Is there a motion to approve the fund balance policy ordinance? Mr. Sheeline, Mr. Friel seconds it. Any questions or comments? Mr. Sheeline, you want to reiterate what this is?
So basically, just to reiterate, this gives us a baseline amount that we are by our own policy to be held in reserve. So if, let's say we would want to spend beyond that, the finance committee would have to come back. We'd have to pass a resolution and we'd have to come back to the board and explain why we're going to violate this policy. But this basically just says that we're going to hold a minimum amount of dollars in reserve for the rainy day fund, basically.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go to new business, resolution improvement under Illinois Highway Code, RBI funds. This resolution pertains to rebuild Illinois grant funds. Let's get a motion on the table, and then maybe Dave Anderson can explain to what we got going on here. So do we have a motion? Mr. Scrogstad moves, Ms. White seconds it. Under discussion, Dave, you want to explain what this is?
So as you mentioned, they're called Rebuild Illinois funds. This was, these were set aside through the 2019 capital bill passage, state legislature. So these are the bonded portion of the capital bill. We can only use them on what's called a bondable project. Okay, so this project that we're contemplating, as in your resolution, will be stabilizing the base of a particular road with a cement stabilization technique, but a hot mix cap on it. That'll be considered a bondable project, but what you got before you is just the appropriation resolution to spend the money for the project.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Dave. We'll go down to, we got a couple of lots, resolutions here. The first resolution, authorizing execution of amendment of section 5311 grant agreement. 5311 is a of funds. Greg's not here available, but is there a motion to approve this resolution, authorize the execution and amendment of this section? Mr. Krogstad, Mr. Naylor seconds it. Any discussion? This is just for the 2024 budget, just more housekeeping than anything. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So we go to C, public transportation applicant. We held this over from March. Is there a motion to approve holding over the public transportation applicant ordinance until March? Mr. Wilson, Mr. Naylor seconds it. This is normal ordinance. It's for 2024. We're going to hold it over to March. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go down to C, ARPA funding request, the board conference room. I think I'll have Wendy explain what happened to us here, then we'll go for a motion and go from there.
So Patty Rudolphi, the ARPA compliance officer, pointed out to me that I had overspent the allocation that I had requested for the board chairman's conference room. I went back to the records to see what had happened, and there were two key reasons. One of which was the big screen television monitor that we use in that room was not budgeted for originally. That was one item. The other item was the plumbing in that room for the sink that was in there. We needed to actually do that plumbing twice. That was related to the sewer smell issue we had on the first floor. So we ended up having to pull out a pipe that went from the first floor to the third floor, which meant we had to redo the plumbing to that sink. So we had duplicate effort there. So for those two reasons, I ended up over the allocation that I originally requested. So I am requesting that you allocate $4,879 additional ARPA funds to finish paying for that project.
Mr. Wilson makes a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Hudson seconds it. Any questions or comments? Any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Also, we're going to go to MOU for cleaning service with Lee County Health Department. I'm going to ask Wendy to explain that as well.
So I believe that I mentioned this last month at the full board meeting. I know we did talk about it at several committee meetings. If you'll recall, Lots requested that we vacate that portion of the MOU with them for cleaning and maintenance services. So we did approve that last month. They have actually got their own solution in place. They, of course, have been working towards that independence that we're hoping to achieve by July 1st with the Reagan Mass Transit District. So this was a logical step for them. In the meantime, the health department came forward and they have been struggling to find someone for cleaning in the health department. They historically have always paid for a cleaning person out of the health department funds themselves. But they came forward and said, if we contributed towards the funding of the maintenance department or janitorial staff, would you be interested in taking on 10 hours a week additional work? So this memorandum of understanding is for that 10 hours a week additional work. The health department will be paying us annually approximately $8,000 per year to do that. There is a CPI increase built into that over time, so it will go up year over year based on the CPI. I would take any questions if anybody has any.
Let's get a motion on the floor. Ms. Naylor moves and Mr. Kitson seconds it. Any questions or comments? I think we're just moving the workforce. We had some extra workforce and we're trying to help out the health department basically. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Wendy. We got a resolution authorizing treasurer's office signatures. We got some new personnel in the treasurer's office. So this resolution would be used to inform institutions of the recent change in staff in the treasurer's office. Is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the treasurer's signature? Mr. Kitson moves, Mr. Gascoigne seconds it. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go to G, Lacita contribution. Let's get a motion on the floor. Is there a motion to approve ARPA economic development funds to be used to contribute $50,000 to the Lee County Industrial Development Association for year 2023 and 2024. So I spoke wrong earlier. I said it was 3 years, 2-year commitment. Ms. Naylor moves, Mr. Kitson seconds. Any discussion on this? I think we need to do it 2 years and see where it goes and then reassess it at that stage. So if there's no questions or comments, we're going to go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're going to go to H, the control room correctional deputy. Clay, would you like to walk us through this?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe I addressed this with the Public Safety and Finance Committee last month. We had a deputy that was injured in an altercation in the jail approximately 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. The deputy has undergone treatment for the injury. He's unfortunately reached maximum medical improvement as far as the physicians go. He has some permanent work restrictions. He cannot be on his feet as much as the other floor officers or floor deputies. So he can only work 8 hours. So we decided that we could possibly make an accommodation to keep him on board as well as supplement our staff. So we made the control room deputy position that would be 42 hours a week, Monday through Friday, to augment the current staff as far as when we have inmate movements, whether it be for court purposes, whether it be for medical, whether Zoom hearings. There has to be a deputy stationed with the inmate at that time while that inmate is outside of the cell block. So we saw this as reasonable that we could help ourselves as well as help this deputy that was injured in line of duty. And the Finance Committee agreed to it.
I think with overtime, this will probably pay for itself by the time you go through it.
Possibly because this will be a fourth individual right now. So as far as staffing goes, there's 3 corrections deputies on at a time. 2 are on the floor, 1 is in the mezzanine that would be the control room. With this individual, if somebody would call off, as far as being sick, this control room deputy could be our third person that would not necessitate us calling somebody in off duty to cover for the illness.
And FOP is good with this move, with this hire, this position?
They haven't voiced any displeasure with it. I mean, we're taking care of an individual that was injured in the line of duty. I can't foresee them objecting to it.
Sure. Is there a motion to approve the request for the additional control room deputy to augment the staffing in the corrections department? Mr. Comeden moves and Mr. Wilson seconds it. In discussion? Yes, Mr. Sheeline.
So I just want I'm just going to make a comment that this isn't, I want the board to understand this is an additional hire. This is an increase in headcount by one. And Clay and I had a conversation in regards, because we gave the Sheriff's Department 2 additional correctional officers in last year. And so I think, Clay, why don't you discuss a little bit of where you're at in regards to the hiring of those 2 individuals, and also talk a little bit about how we're paying for this, at least, this fiscal year, and then I'll talk about a little bit moving forward. So
I'm in the hot seat tonight. So yes, we have 2 spots open currently. We just had an individual start on Monday. We've got another individual starting next Monday. We have 2 slots in April for the Corrections Academy. We got into the last academy. That's 5 weeks. The Illinois Training and Standards Board has raised the training time from 5 weeks to 8 weeks. So we actually flew under the radar on that one. So these 2 individuals will be trained. It does take a little bit as far as them to get acclimated through the kind of a field training process in the jail to know all the nuances and procedures. So they should be up and running here June, July. So we will have 2 additional people to assist. We have I have 1 other deputy that is off of the medical situation, and another off for another internal matter. So we're finally getting back up to staffing right now. Running the jail, we're way over in overtime at this point, and we're only a quarter of the way through the fiscal year.
Any more questions?
So going forward, I mean, when we talked about how this was the budget impact of this is going to be, is that it was basically going to be budget neutral for this year. But then as we move forward, we're adding an additional person on. So you're going to see an increase in headcount and in his budget going forward. Now, obviously, we've talked about before what's going to happen, which is still an unknown, what's going to happen with the safety bill. And the net effect of that. So as we move forward, we'll see where we are as far as necessary staffing levels going forward.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Scotchard, did you have something?
I was just going to comment that if any board member would like to go out there and see what these officers do every day, I will go with you, and I will share my 31 years with you on what is all involved with that. So.
Thank you. Any more comments? All right, we have a first, second. I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're going to go down to I, ordinance expansion of Lee County Employee 457, the deferred compensation plan. We're going to hold it over till March. I'm going to have Wendy explain what this is.
So the first thing that I'll explain is that apparently I have the wrong document attached to this agenda item. I would give you all a request at this point in time that if you ever notice this prior to a meeting, please let me know so I can fix it, because I didn't notice until just now. Fortunately, as Bob said, this is something we're looking to lay over for a month, so I'll make sure and get the correct one out there. The The purpose behind the ordinance, however, is we currently offer and have offered actually since 1989 a deferred compensation 457B plan, which allows employees to voluntarily defer some of their income into a retirement program. The county contributes nothing towards that other than the minor administrative function of the payroll department deducting that from the pay stubs of the employees. The reason that I'm bringing this forward to you today is that since 1989, when the board approved the deferred compensation program, the ordinance specifically said that the county would approve the NACO, National Association of Counties, deferred compensation provider, which happens to be nationwide. So in other words, it restricted the county to simply that one single provider. If we open this up to other providers, which the ordinance proposes to do based on the treasurer's recommendation to finance and ultimately finance approval, what this does is a couple different things. It gives employees a choice of which provider to go with, and it'll reduce the responsibility, let's call it that, the responsibility of this county, because we're not contributing anything towards it, but we're saying you can only participate in nationwide. If we offer another option, one or two other options, then the employees will have a full choice and responsibility of selecting the program that works best for them. Again, I don't envision that we're going to start offering this from everybody. So because that would become administratively a nightmare for the treasurer's office, we're looking for maybe adding one or two other providers and allowing employees to select from there. Again, this will be held over till next month.
Thank you, Wendy. Is there a motion to hold over the expansion of Lee County Employee 457 Deferred Compensation Plan Ordinance until March? Mr. Robertson moves. Mr. Wilson seconds it. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Wilson.
No, Mr. Kitson, sorry.
Or Mr. Kilson, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Wow. Wilson on my mind, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, do we have to change the way this is stated in here? Do we need to make a motion to change it to make it what we want, or are we okay the way it is, Charlie?
The 457 program. So, Tom, I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, as you said, you've got the wrong ordinance in here.
No,
or the
no, she's
wrong.
got the wrong.
Oh, I've got the wrong document attached, the
So
ordinance.
Do we need to have anything to correct that prior to our vote so that we know that we are voting on simplification? I'm just asking, do we need to change this to make it legitimate?
So I got the wrong document attached. He's saying, is that an issue for them to vote on it? It's laying over. They're voting to lay it over, so they're not approving it at this point. What I have is the rate.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we're not.
Ordinance.
Nope, I understand.
Good call.
The ordinance on the 57 program. Yes, we're looking to expand the program.
Sorry, I was getting some clarification from Wendy on what the ordinance was actually going to be. So no, the way she's described it, the ordinance is still going to be as written. As long as you've been able to see the ordinance, or as long as we can provide the ordinance in the interim,
Okay.
it'll be fine.
All right, thank you, Charlie.
Any more questions or comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The ordinance, the control of noxious weeds, we're going to hold it over till March. I think Wendy needs to explain this too. I think the old ordinance is 20 years old. Wendy, you want to explain the changes?
Yes, actually, so again, the county board back in 2002 did adopt, and that was about the time the state of Illinois passed legislation that required every county to have a weed control supervisor. So in 2002, following the state statute, we did approve that. Over the last 20 years, we've changed committee names a lot. So the original ordinance referenced a committee that hasn't existed for at least 10 years. So what this is, what you're seeing here is just a refresh of that ordinance that now refers, the committee reference is now the county executive committee, because I anticipate that we'll always have an executive committee, no matter how many times we may change the other committees. One other thing I'll explain to you, this is going to seem a little bit odd because a couple steps more down your agenda, you're going to be making the annual appointment for the weed control officer. So until you adopt, and this has to lay over for a month, so you won't adopt it until next month. Until you adopt the new one, the old one is still in place, and we do statutorily still need to appoint a weed control officer annually by March 15th. So that's on your agenda a little bit later. Again, for this one, all I'm trying to do is a little bit of cleanup of committee structure, and there were a couple minor grammatical or Scrivener's errors in it that I'm cleaning up.
And let's get a motion on the table. Mr. Bivens moves, Mr. Hudson seconds it. Any discussion on what we're doing here? If not, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We'll go to K, Lee County Sheriff, new squad car purchase. This item was inadvertently overlooked, therefore it was not placed on the Finance Committee agenda. It's time sensitive, so I recommended we put it on the board agenda for consideration for Clay. I think I'm the one that dropped the ball on this, Clay. I think you sent me the request and you put a couple of them back to back, and I didn't read all the way through there, so I am sorry, and that's why we're here tonight. The finance didn't get to look at it. It's in the budget, but I think go ahead, Clay. I think they're $5,000 more than what we thought, correct?
Correct. During the budget process for FY '23, it was not known, obviously, that the squad car prices were going to rise $5,400 each. The price for a 2023 police package Ford Explorer rose to $39,922.88. That is from the FY '22 price of $34,481.76 per squad. And as a further frame of reference, in FY '21, it was $34,163.90. So this was a 15.7% increase per squad that was unforeseen. Therefore, the capital expenditure plan for squads is approximately $21,000 short.
Let's get a motion on the table, then we'll discuss it. Mr. Wilson moves, Mr. Akers seconds it. Any discussion? It's in the budget. We're just $20,000 short. Story of our life. So,
Right.
any more questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Clay. We got a resolution declaring support submittal application of the 2023 RAISE grant and local funding match. We did this last year with the city of Dixon. I'm going to call on Wendy again to walk us through this.
So approximately a year ago, we submitted through the ARPA funding the opportunity to partner with the city of Dixon for a RAISE grant. The grant, like most grants, required a match. So we agreed a year ago to contribute $50,000 of county ARPA money. The city of Dixon agreed to contribute $50,000 of their resources to go towards that grant match. Unfortunately, we didn't receive the grant, but we did, Greg Gates actually received some really good feedback about why the grant was not selected. So we're here for round 2. We're not asking for any additional money. That money at ARPA dollars were already allocated. We're just asking to reapply one more time and give it another shot, hopefully with a better result.
Thank you. I need a motion to get on the table. Mr. Bivens moves. Mr. Pearson seconds it. Any discussion? We're just doing the same thing as we did last year. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go down, we got appointment of Terry Zink as weed control superintendent. Is there a motion to approve the resolution appointing Terry Zink as weed control superintendent? Mr. Kitson moves, Mr. Wilson seconds it. All those in, any discussion about this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next on our agenda is executive session. I have nothing for us tonight. We thought we might have, but we're not quite ready to bring it. So we'll go down to the approval of county officers' reports, quarterly treasurer's report. Is there a motion to approve the county officers' reports and the quarterlies? Ms. Naylor, Mr. Kitson seconds it.
Identities.
Yeah.
Identities.
Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So now we're going to approve the monthly revenue reports, claims paid, vacation, and payroll paid. Is there a motion to approve the monthly report, Revenue report, claims paid and vacation, and the payroll paid. Mr. Gascoigne moves and Mr. Robinson seconds it. Any discussion? If none, Nancy, we need to do a roll call on this.
Minime,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Sheline,
Yes.
Shippert,
Yes.
Scrogstad,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Zeman,
Yes.
Acree,
Yes.
Bivens,
Yes.
Friel,
Yes.
Gascoigne,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Kitson,
Yes.
Copine,
Yes.
Olson. Yes. Thank you. I need approval of board member mileage and per diem. Ms. Naylor and Mr. Kitson, in discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I believe there was one correction.
Oh, you're right. Go ahead.
So we discovered that there was one correction to be made. Angela Shippert had a per diem that we did not have on the original report. So I would look for a motion to approve with the addition of a meeting per diem for Angela for a meeting that she attended. And Angela, do you remember which one it was? Because I don't remember.
Tri-County Opportunities Council.
There we go, for Tri-County. We just missed that one, so.
I got January 24th on here, so yep.
Yep.
You want to change your motion?
I will.
Okay, and second's good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Wilson, the real Mr. Wilson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We're